Hello guys, welcome back. So far in the course we worked with the stimulus controllers to open the form in Bootstrap model and we got our hands dirty enough with the stimulus and its working style. Okay, now in this lecture we will again work with a stimulus controller to handle the end date and currently working here attribute in the work experience form. Let me show you that what we are missing there. Okay, so first to open this aid experience form. Okay, and here you can see that right now if I select the end date, I can also allow user to check this checkbox, that is I am currently working here. Okay, but this should not happen from the user's point of view. However, we handled the validation at the model level and it is not causing any problem at all, but this should not be better user experience. What should happen here, that if a user has selected the I am currently working here checkbox as true, then he should not be allowed to provide value for end date attribute. Okay, and we will handle this stuff at front end using stimulus. Okay, and you can see the same functionality on the LinkedIn as well when you try to add or edit your experience on the LinkedIn. Okay, if you can see there. However, I will not show you the LinkedIn experience form in this lecture just because there might be some policy violation from the YouTube side. Okay, so you can try it at your end. So if you select the currently working here checkbox in the LinkedIn form, then you will not see the end date attribute. You will see that it is the disabled. Okay, so we will provide the same functionality here at the front end level. Okay, using the stimulus, and by doing this stuff using stimulus rather than any plain JavaScript or jQuery stuff, you will be better with the stimulus things. Okay, so let's do that. First, what we need to do, we first need to generate a stimulus controller for our application to handle this stuff. So come to the browser, and in the browser open a new terminal tab, and here what we need to do, rails g stimulus and then disable end date. Okay, we are using this controller to disable our end date. Okay, now you can come to the uh, project directory and open the form first. Okay, so you can open the form, and here we need to first change the position of checkbox because now we need to show this on the top of the start date and end date. So just cut it from here and paste this inside the form group row, and first make the call lg6 to call lg12. Okay, and now we need to add the data attribute here. Okay, just like we did previously for displaying the bootstrap model forms in using turbo stream and stimulus. Okay, and you can see that this is the controller created by stimulus for you in the app JavaScript controllers. Okay, and what data attribute we need to add, data controller disable end date. Okay, and now come to the form partial, and here you need to add data controller, and here disable end date. Okay, so this will allow stimulus to identify this element, and it will be processed by the disable ended stimulus controller. Okay, now here we need to make a little change in this for id as well, because I mistakenly at currently working here, instead it will be work experience currently working here. Okay, why? Because by default rails generate the ids for the form element by prepending model name before the attributes name. Okay, so our attribute name is currently working here, and our model name is work experience, so it should be work experience and currently working here. Okay, so now we make changes into the form. Okay, and now we need to do something in the stimulus controller. First we need to add an initialize function here. Initialize, sorry. Okay, and in that initialize function we will set an attribute to our stimulus element, that is data controller disable end date. Okay, and what this action will do, initialize action will do, that this will set an attribute data action, and in that data action we will handle the click event, and on click our checkbox will call a function that will disable the end date and set its value to null. Okay, so let's add this dot element dot set attribute. Okay, and here what we need to do, data action. Okay, and then click and you need to provide a controller name that is disable ended. Okay, and then you need to define the function name here. I mean the function you want to call here. Okay, so we can create our function name like disable end date. Okay, disable end date. Okay, and save it. Now we need to define this disable end date function. Okay, and into this disable end date function we will write the logic to handle the input element, end date input element. Okay, so first define the first fetch the input here, so we can use const and then end date element, and here document dot get element by id, and here provide the id of the end date element input element. Okay, and you can get the id of end date input element by inspecting it, that is work experience end date. Okay, so just copy this id and we need to use this id here. Okay, and now what we need to do as the next thing, we need to check if the checkbox is checked, then only we will set its value to null and disable it. Okay, so if this dot element dot checked. Okay, here this dot element is representing the checkbox on the form. Why? Because we added the data controller disable ended attribute to the checkbox. Okay, so here if this dot element is checked, then what we need to do, we need to set the value of ended element to null, value equal to null. Okay, and what we need to do, accept this, that we need to set an attribute that is disabled true for this end date element. Okay, so end date element dot set attribute, and here disabled and then true. Now come to the else part. What should happen if the disabled true checkbox is not checked? If it is returning false, then we need to remove this disable attribute. So end date element dot remove attribute, and then that is disabled. Okay, and save it. Now at the last thing in this controller, we need to call this function on the connect as well. Okay, because for example if your form is you are replacing your form with the validation errors, then the new form instance will be rendered here. Okay, so we need to call this on connect as well. So connect disable end date. Okay, now save the stimulus controller and save the form partial as well. Okay, and start your rail server and come to the browser. Okay, and on the browser you need to refresh the page first and then click on the add experience. Okay, and if you click on the add experience, now you can see that in the form we are seeing the I am currently working here as on the top and before the start date and end date. Okay, now inspect this element, the checkbox element, and here you can see that this checkbox element has the data controller attribute that is disable end date, and it also has an action that is data action click disable end date controllers disable end date function. Okay, now let's provide a value for end date. Let's choose June 24 June 24 2023. Okay, now if you select this checkbox, here you can see that our end date is disabled now and the value set to null. And if you enable this, if you disable, I mean if you uncheck this checkbox, then you need to select the value of end date again. Okay, and you are seeing that now end date is not disabled and you can provide value for it. Okay, so now to test it, let's select the checkbox as checked and submit the empty form. Save changes. Okay, and here you can see that the form is replaced with the another form with validation errors in it. And here you can see our checkbox button is still checked and we are seeing the end date is disabled. Okay, now here you can see that we unchecked our checkbox, and if we are submitting the entry form now we are getting the error for end date must be present if you are not currently working in this company. Okay, and that's it. Here we learn how we can use stimulus to manage controls on the dom element. I hope you will try this at your end to become a better stimulus developer. So thanks for watching this, and we will meet into the next lecture. Till then, tata, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.